Walk 10 steps across your living room, and you'll remember exactly what you were doing. Walk those same 10 steps through a doorway, and there's a good chance it's gone. Same distance, same effort, same you. The only thing that changed is the door. You felt this. You stand up with a clear purpose, you cross into the kitchen, and you arrive with nothing. Just a blank space where the reason used to be. For years, psychologists have had a name for this. They called it the doorway effect. They ran the experiments, they found the mechanism, and then in 2021, they tried to do it again, and something went wrong. Here's the idea behind it. You experience your life as one continuous stream. It doesn't feel like it has chapters. But your brain doesn't store it that way. Storing a continuous stream would be impossible, so instead it cuts. It slices your day into segments. Psychologists call them event models. Small, self-contained packages of what's happening, where you are, and what you're trying to do. You're inside one right now. It holds this room, this screen, and whatever you meant to do next. And your brain needs to know when to close one package and open the next. So it watches for signals. A change of activity, a change of topic, a change of place. A doorway is about the cleanest signal there is. So when you cross one, part of your mind treats it as the end of a chapter. It files the old event away, and the intention you were carrying gets filed with it. That's the theory. Here's how they tested it. At the University of Notre Dame, Gabriel Radvansky and his colleagues built a simple task. People moved through a space carrying an object and had to remember what they were carrying. Sometimes they walked across one large room. Sometimes they walked the same distance, but through a doorway into a second room. Distance held constant. Effort held constant. Only the door changed. The people who crossed the doorway were slower, and they made more mistakes. Now, you might already have an explanation ready. Memory is tied to context. The room, the light, the smell. Move somewhere new, and the cues stop matching, so recall gets harder. Reasonable, but that predicts something very specific. Go back to the original room, and the cues should match again. The memory should come back. They tested that too. It didn't come back. Walking back through the doorway restored nothing. Which means this isn't really about where you are, it's about the boundary you cross to get there. And then, it gets stranger. If the doorway is doing the work, the doorway should have to be real. A physical frame, a threshold you actually move your body through. So they took the door away. They ran the same kind of task in virtual environments. Rooms on a screen moved through with a controller. No walking, no architecture, nothing but pixels arranged into the shape of a room. The effect showed up anyway. Reported findings extend to moving between virtual rooms with no physical door at all, including passing through a portal in a video game. The body never crosses anything. The brain files the chapter regardless, which tells you what your mind is actually reacting to. It isn't the wood and the hinges. It's the idea of a boundary. Your brain is running a model of the world, and the moment that model says new place, it closes the old file. The door was never the point. The door is just the most obvious thing your brain uses to notice that something has ended. So why location? Of everything your brain could file a memory by, why the room? Because for almost all of human history, where you were told you nearly everything about what you were doing, the place you slept wasn't the place you hunted. The place you ate wasn't the place you fought. Location wasn't incidental to an event. It was the most reliable marker that one thing had stopped and another had started. A brain that files by place is a brain that stays organized. The problem is your house. You now cross 50 boundaries a day, and almost none of them mean anything. Bedroom, hallway, kitchen. Same task, same intention, same afternoon. But the filing system doesn't know that. It's still doing the job it evolved to do, inside a building that breaks its only rule. You didn't get worse at remembering. You just built a house full of chapter breaks. So that's the doorway effect. Clean mechanism, clean experiments. And it explains something everybody has felt. It's also, as of 2021, in trouble. A team led by McFadden set out to build on the finding. 4 experiments: immersive virtual reality, video, and real physical movement through actual rooms. Across most of it, the effect didn't show up, not reduced, not weaker than expected. In most conditions, it simply wasn't there. It appeared in one when people were also holding a demanding memory task at the same time. And even then, it wasn't a mind going blank. It was a modest rise in errors. And this is worth being careful about because a failed replication is not the same as a debunking. It doesn't mean the first researchers were wrong or careless or making it up. It usually means the effect is more fragile than anyone realized. That it depends on conditions nobody thought to write down because nobody knew they mattered. Change the room size. Change how hard people are concentrating. Change what counts as a doorway. And the thing you were measuring quietly stops appearing. This is the part most videos about the doorway effect leave out. And it's the most interesting thing about it. Because look at what happened here. The famous version of this finding, cross a threshold, lose your thought, is a headline that outran its evidence. It traveled much further than the data ever supported. It's in articles, on blogs, in 100 videos, including probably one you've already watched. So what's left standing? Event boundaries are real. The idea that your brain segments experience into chunks is well supported, and it rests on a much larger body of work than one doorway study. You can watch people do it. Show someone an ordinary film of somebody making a sandwich. Ask them to press a button whenever one meaningful unit ends and another begins. And strangers agree with each other about where the cuts go. The segmentation is not a theory somebody invented. It's something you can measure in a room full of people who've never met. What's shaky is the doorway specifically, the size of that effect, and how easily you can trigger it. The clean, dramatic version, where a doorway reliably wipes an intention, is not what the evidence shows. The honest version is smaller and more conditional. When your working memory is already loaded, crossing a boundary can make retrieval a little harder. Sometimes, under some conditions. That's less satisfying than the headline. It's also closer to true. And it doesn't mean nothing happened when you walked into that kitchen. Because something did happen. You know it did. Whatever the doorway is or isn't doing, the thing underneath it is real. Your brain closes chapters. And it does that whether or not you are finished. Which means the fix was never about doors. It's about not handing a fragile intention to a system that's about to file it away. So say it out loud. Picture the object, not the errand. Hold the thing you're going for as an image, not a plan. You're not going to stop your brain cutting your life into chapters, but you can make the thought heavy enough to carry across the gap.